place, there was a presence other than my own that emerged as this effulgence of pure light, radiance, and a light comprised of love energy that is that we don't even can't even grasp in our human understanding. And my soul, higher self, soul essence in communion with that presence was sharing things. That presence was sharing things with me about my soul's journey up till that point, and about everything I had experienced and was experiencing my current situation on earth as a human. And I call the I've come to call this as the field of oneness. And it was this field of this multi-dimensional, multi merging of everything. Like in a field, there's the grass, and there's the sky, and there's the flowers, and there's the wind, and everything comes together. And there's kind of this separateness of all those things in their own essence, yet they all come together as one. So that was my experience of that place. And at some point, I had all the information I needed to have to return. And there was a lot that happened, kind of like if you can imagine putting your forehead to another person's forehead and knowing everything about them and everything about their soul's journey and everything about what was going on in their life and where they came from and where they're going and everything. It's kind of like that. And it happened in a seeming instant. And again, there's no time. In the time, and linear time is such a man-made construct. So I had all of the information I needed to be able to come back, and a growing sense of urgency started to rise to get back into the body. And as I started to come back in, I could feel myself partly out of my body and partly in. And the part that was entering in felt like a genie being squeezed into a bottle. Yet I also at the same time heard this form, my body form, yelping, and realized, oh, that yelping is coming from this form that's also identified as my body here. And I started to come back in. And when I um, kind of came back, I was in the trauma unit of the hospital. And so I was kind of in and out of this place, and still so cracked wide open for a long time. Coming back, there was a lot of broken bones that happened, and internal swelling, and internal bleeding, and organ damage, and a fractured sacrum, and a fractured pelvis, and staples in my head, and all of this. So yeah, there's a lot of time to be in the now and be in the oneness, because I literally couldn't do anything else. I mean, I didn't have my cognitive abilities, and my physical abilities were offline. So I was in this expansive place for quite a while.
Wow. Wow. I got to go back in time. Like I'm feeling the energy, and I know that space that you talk about. I know that, I know it, right? Like I visited there. But
Mm,
obviously, I visited it and I saw their forms. This is the first time, my sister, that I know all the broken bones that you had. And I thought I
mm,
had it rough, right? Me, I had an arm and a leg. And obviously, I went into an altered state of consciousness, but my mind, even at the impact, I think God, that was a decision of God and the infinite intelligence that was operating in the car accident that day, because the impact was so brutal. There was no more car after that. So the
mm,
way we survived was divine intervention, right? And but my mind stood it went elevated. My mind became super attuned to infinite intelligence. And do you know, my sister, that they never checked my brain in Mexico? I
Mm,
still wonder, you know, I still wonder if all the ADD that I have, all the pains and everything, and the ability that I have to jump from one thing to another and then come back, but confuse people a lot because of that, is because that situation, it never occurred for the doctors back then to even do me, like, to a brain scan. Nothing. So I wonder, and I'll come back to what I was sharing. I recently broke, and my ankle had a fracture, and I was walking with a fractured ankle the past 3 4 months, until I was beginning to feel pain. Right, my foot was a little purple, kind of thing, and I went to do X-rays, and the doctor looks at me and says, "How are you walking?" You know what
mm.
happened the moment he said that to me? I went to bed. 3 months before, without having the hey, you have this diagnosis, say you have this fracture, no problem. As
Yeah.
soon as I heard what I had, boom. So I wonder if sometimes in these issues we had that situation. But anyways, so going back to your experience, I was feeling the morphic field that you were traveling. I was
Mhm.
feeling the elevation. What called my attention is that you saw the cocoons. I did not see cocoons. That you felt at ease, at peace, like floating. Me, I literally saw a lot of people hanging out there, but they were desperate. You probably have better karma than me, because you saw the cocoons, you saw the peace. I saw the desperation of people stuck in between the realms, reaching out their hand, trying for me to help them, take them into the light. So that was my experience, right? But you feel this cocoon, you feel this realm, you really feel like the all the fractals coming in together, merging, all collaborating in perfect harmony. And then what happens, my sister? So you are with a brain injury, right? You are with all these broken bones. How does I'm just wondering, what is the transition from the old self to the new you? What happens next?
So, so I'm glad you asked. Thank you. And embodying, coming back into an embodied state, and kind of not making sense, right? Like the ego and the mind and the brain wants to make sense. It's kind of integrating all of that experience with it took a long time to walk, to drive, to talk, to express. I was in speech therapy for several years, really. Um and to walk, and then energetically, right, the first and second chakra is really, I had several broken bones within that place, and all the right side of my body was sprained. And for me, what started to happen was, it's walking around with your crown open all the time and not being able to kind of distinguish between where your body ends and where space begins, and also walking around being able to pick up on people's energy. So it's kind of, I explain it like if someone handed you a Rubik's cube, a Rubik's cube.
Yes, yes, yes.
If someone Yeah, yeah, if someone handed you a Rubik's cube and you just knew how to put it together, and they asked you, well, how did you do that? And it's hard to explain. You just knew because you knew. It's in a holographic way because you just knew. It's kind of like that for a long time. And going through, there were several things, right? There was the physical learning to walk and talk and do all those things. And then there was the honing these heightened senses into a way that they could be helpful in service for others, and helpful for me to kind of, as a funnel, use them and direct this energy, or just be in this energy. And also embodiment. I learned a lot about toxic positivity, about spiritual bypassing, about being in the both end of, yes, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. We're also At times, spiritual beings having a spiritual experience. At times, human beings having a spiritual experience. And at times, human beings having a human experience. And for me, learning through different modalities of healing, like embodied, somatic, therapy, healing, and trauma, which I didn't really think I needed trauma therapy because I'm such an optimistic, glass full person and feel so grateful and blessed to have had this kind of touching into the pureness of where we all come from and that lives inside of each of us that we can access, by the way, in everyday life. We don't need to have a near death experience to access that divine place within us. It's removing a lot of the layers and the labelings and all the things we ascribe to ourselves. Anyway, that's a whole conversation we can go into. However, really being in the both and allow and learning ways of moving through the trauma that happened and embodying and integrating all of the spiritual, soulful transmissions, really, that were imparted. And it's a practice. And yeah, so I hope that answers the question.
Yes, yes. Well, it's as you said, it's hard to put into words the unmanifest, right? Where we were in the unmanifest. We like we died, we came back. Obviously there was a higher mission that we needed to go to return. I'm not sure. One of the psychologists that I work with, when I did relationship therapy with one of my former partners, it was Stan Stalsky. He did an incredible book called The Brain in Love. And when I said, when I was sharing about the near death experiences, he said it only happened in your mind, but it happened in that moment. It's a neuroscience thing. He kind of told me, yeah, don't make a lot of story about it. But I said, yeah, well, I understand that, right? Like the incredible, I don't remember her name, that she has a really great TED talk about that she had a brain stroke and she was able to go through the whole process. Is one of the viral TED talks in the world when she had a
Yes.
near death experience, right? But
Yep.
he said that to me. But then there are evidences in our life that it transcended. It was more than just the physical brain. We did access another realm. We did come here with more awakened aspects of ourselves. Others are not that awakened anymore, like the things that we used. And this is a metaphysical experience. Like we literally went, and I love that you said that you saw the cocoons, right? It is
Mm.
a transformation of the butterfly. And again, I'm in awe of the serendipity and the synchronicities. Before this podcast recorded, we have another podcast that is all in Spanish called Empoderamiento Humano, Human Empowerment for Latin American speaking, Spanish speaking family members of humanity. And I was interviewing the founder of the Mariposa Project. Her name is Yvette Grullon. And she was speaking about how she went through a process of a cocoon, deep pain, deep, like being a caterpillar cocoon, and the dissolution that occurred in like a death, right? And that's how the Mariposa Project came to birth. And so you are talking to me right now, and I can feel that space of death, rebirth, and acknowledging that we cannot bypass this, we cannot beautify it, but we can also embrace it, embody it, and turn the spiritual aspect, the metaphysical aspects into normalcy, into our everyday life. So, Felice, this is so deep. I think that people are going to feel that transmission is occurs as you speak. So what are you? How are you? I know that you're still working on your brain because the impact. I mean, you were hit by a truck. It's not the everyday thing, right? And then a cement thing fell into your head. So how do you? And you still find your way into being optimistic, into bringing people together, and being a yoga teacher. What have you experienced of you serving people in the modalities that you are an expert on, that you have devoted your life into studying because your background is so rich. What are